number 1 at 11, King 5 Television. And now, with all the news for Western Washington, Lori Matsukawa and David Curley, with Shelley Monahan, weather, and Carlos Del Valle, sports. This is King 5 News at 11.
This is the scene of a crime committed by a teenager, a crime one woman says could have been prevented. Good evening. Our top story tonight, when children become the criminals and the victims.
Our top story begins in Bremerton, where 2 teenagers are being blamed for the shooting death of a 15-year-old boy. Tonight, the prime suspect's mother says the murder could have been prevented. King 5's Mona Lee talked with a frustrated parent who tried to get her help for her son.
We were crying for help in the community with the police, the probation department, the schools, everything, and all we were ever told that kind of basically we're just trying to get rid of him. You know, that we're not good parents, we can't handle it. And we were trying to keep tragedy from happening.
But tragedy did strike, and 15-year-old George Joseph Molnar, better known as Joe, is dead. He was shot through the chest yesterday afternoon at this home. Police believe Joe's best friend, Christine Clark's son, is one of the 2 boys responsible. The suspect's mother says she's not surprised her son is wanted for murder. Last year he was diagnosed manic depressive after stealing her car, credit cards, and a gun. She says when his moods began changing recently, she feared not only for his life, but for those of others.
And it could have been prevented. This could have been prevented. If people would have listened to us, if they would have listened to us, it could have been prevented. It did not have to happen. That boy didn't have to die. Now I hold the community responsible. I do.
Friends who live at the murder scene are also shaken. They say Joe's friend told them he had a gun, and shortly after Joe went looking for him in the backyard, they heard a gunshot.
I went back there, and he was laying down with blood all over. We cannot believe it. We cannot believe it.
Neither Joe's best friend nor another teen who was with him have been seen since Joe's death. In Bremerton, Mona Lee, King 5 News.
Police have issued warrants for the teenager's arrest on charges of second-degree murder.
Our top story coverage continues from Longview. Parents there are worried tonight because a 10-year-old accused of rape and other sex crimes is out on parole. The boy has allegedly forced as many as a dozen neighborhood kids to perform sexual acts at knife point. King 5's Julie Francavilla tells us about this grown-up crime that involves only children.
The word on the street in Longview is about a little boy who some fear may be out on the streets.
We've got an 8-year-old, and I would hate to think that she would run into this young boy and to think that he's been released and put back out on the streets.
The boy accused of the sex crimes is out on bond, being watched over by his mother. But people who deal with these young criminals say the kids are most times victims too.
So when a young kid is involved, chances are that kid was a victim themselves, and they learned the actions that they're perpetrating on someone else by having been a victim themselves.
If this town's 10-year-old alleged rapist is convicted, he won't be the state's first. There are already kids as young as 11 and 12 years old serving time for sex crimes. In Longview, Julie Francavilla, King 5 News.
Police are still interviewing children and their parents to find out exactly how many children the 10-year-old has molested. Investigators believe there may be victims as young as 2 years old.
In other news, search and rescue crews are on the scene of a helicopter crash tonight in Alaska that has sent 1 critically injured passenger to Harborview Medical Center. A Bell 214 went down 3 miles south of Hobart Bay about 4 o'clock today. That's 100 miles south of Anchorage. So far, authorities say as many as 9 people are in serious condition, and they've been taken to hospitals in Anchorage. None of the passengers' names have been released. Officials don't know what caused that chopper to crash. Democratic caucuses in Maine gave former Massachusetts Senator Paul Tsongas a razor-thin margin over former California Governor Jerry Brown. With 97% of precincts reporting, Tsongas, the winner in the New Hampshire primary, got 30% of the delegates. Brown, who finished last in New Hampshire, got 29%. They were followed by Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton with 15%. A whopping 16% remained uncommitted. Republicans have until April 1st to select delegates. So far, President Bush enjoys a comfortable lead over Pat Buchanan. Many of the Democratic candidates hurried through Maine and headed straight to South Dakota tonight, where they debated before Tuesday's primary. Being in the Midwest seemed to naturally bring the debate around to the family farm. Iowa Senator Tom Harkin said Paul Tsongas' support of a 5-cent-a-gallon gasoline tax and former President Reagan's budget hurt farmers.
Here's the Boston Globe, 1982. Reagan's budget good for business, Mr. Tsongas says. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's good for the junk bond dealers and the corporate mergers and the big boys on Wall Street, but it wasn't good for our family farmers, Paul.
Let me just say a couple of things. One, this is the first time that you've believed the Boston Globe. Well, on the gasoline tax, we just had a war, and people died. We have no energy policy. I'm trying to put an energy policy in place so we're not dependent on the Persian Gulf.
Former California Governor Jerry Brown got a strong response from the former mayor of Irvine, California, Larry Agran, when Brown said he'd fight special interests in Washington and not give a penny in foreign aid until domestic needs are met.
When I hear Jerry Brown, the grand champion of raising special interest money through the 70s and 80s, giving lectures to the rest of us about special interest domination, I'm up to here with it.
Nebraska Senator Bob Kerrey said visits to Indian reservations only strengthen his argument for national health insurance.
But national health insurance not only provides an opportunity for them to get health care, but equalizes the access, which is extremely important.
A poll by a Sioux Falls newspaper shows Kerrey ahead of the pack with 26% of the vote, but 28% are still undecided. A straw poll of Washington's young Democrats who are meeting in Silverdale tonight shows Bill Clinton getting twice as many votes as the next closest candidate, Tom Harkin.
Lori, the battle on the Republican side heated up this weekend with a power play by the Bush administration to try and force Pat Buchanan out of the race. President Bush spent the weekend at Camp David, returning this afternoon. That left Dan Quayle to push the message that the candidacy of conservative Buchanan will only weaken the president in the fall election. Last night, some Republicans walked out of a Tampa fundraiser when Buchanan criticized the president. Buchanan says it is Mr. Bush who is actually hurting the party.
I have exposed the depth of the division when I went to New Hampshire. It is divided because George Bush and Mr. Quayle in that administration, if he supports what they're doing, have walked away from the principles and the policies they said they would pursue. Quotas is just one of them. Raising taxes when you said you won't is another.
Buchanan has been campaigning the past several days in the South. Was it an accident or murder for insurance money? Tomorrow, the trial of Randy Roth starts in Seattle. Roth is accused of drowning his wife on Lake Sammamish last summer to collect $365,000 in insurance. It was Roth's fourth wife. The judge has ruled that the jury may be told about the mysterious death of his second wife. Roth says a boat wake overturned their small boat, resulting in his wife's death. A woman who says she was sexually harassed while working at the Boeing company is expected to be on the stand again tomorrow, just before her case goes to the jury. Chris Stapp says she was subjected to obscene language and physical threats while on the job. Stapp was fired in 1989 after a medical leave. She's asking for reinstatement and unspecified monetary damages. The monetary damages will be substantial for thousands of General Motors employees who are expected to lose their jobs. An announcement is due tomorrow. The Detroit-based automaker plans to permanently close one of two plants, either in Arlington, Texas, or in Michigan. In the 2 months since GM announced the closure, workers and their families have had to struggle with the uncertainty of knowing whether or not they would lose their job.
You know, when the economy is in this country as bad as it is right now, and your jobs are shaky and everything like that, it makes a strain on everybody.
Tomorrow, the chairman of General Motors will address the 300,000 hourly workers over closed-circuit television.
The second round of the historic Middle East peace talks are scheduled to begin tomorrow. Arab and Israeli delegates arrived in Washington today, ready to talk. Experts say the meeting may explain why conflicts in southern Lebanon have subsided for the first time in weeks.
Women and their doctors rely on mammograms as the best form of early detection of breast cancer. Next on King 5 News, we'll tell you why the diagnostic test may not be worth the risk for some women.
And later in sports, the Beavers and the Dogs barking. We'll have highlights from today's Washington-Oregon State game. No one disputes a man died of cholera last week in L.A. or that he got infected on board an Argentinian airliner that flew from Lima, Peru to Los Angeles. But no one agrees on where that cholera came from. Passengers on board the flight were questioned yesterday. The president of Argentina today blamed the food on the flight for the disease. But a spokesman for the Peruvian Ministry of Health says the outbreak started as a result of poor sanitary conditions in the airplane. In all, 8 of the 300 passengers have contracted cholera.
Next month, a new Canadian study on the risks of mammograms will be issued. It suggests that mammograms can be dangerous for young women. King 5's Linda Brill explains why the study flies in the face of most research, which shows mammography is the most effective breast cancer screening method.
That's a cancer.
This x-ray shows a woman's breast with a cancer tumor about the size of a dime. More than likely, it would be undetected by touch, but it was picked up by a mammogram. Now, however, mammography is radiating some doubts. A Canadian study, due out next month, will reportedly show that mammography is risky for premenopausal women. It found that women aged 40 to 50 who had mammograms were 52% more likely to die of breast cancer than those who had just had physical exams. But critics say the Canadians used faulty equipment, causing a lot of false negative images.
They didn't have the new low-dose, extra sharp, extra accurate mammography equipment. And so they went ahead with the old equipment.
The Canadian study flies in the face of most research, which shows that today's mammograms are safe.
The mammograms are very low dose, and if they are done by good equipment with an accredited, with credit from the American College of Radiology or some other similar accrediting agency, the women should be very safe.
Women waiting for a mammogram were not pleased to hear about the coming Canadian findings.
I always ask about that, if they have the latest equipment and if the level of radiation is the least you can get, and I'm always assured yes, and it's safe and all of that, so I do it. But depending on what comes out in the study, I might change my mind.
The American Cancer Society urges these guidelines. Begin mammography by age 40. Age 40 to 49, mammography every 1 to 2 years. Over age 50, get an annual mammogram. Women with a family history or symptoms of breast cancer should consult their physicians. The Cancer Society fears the Canadian study will scare women away from needed screening.
If people are confused about what the guidelines are and someone doesn't have their mammogram when they should have it and has a breast cancer detected later, you know, when it's less curable, it could be deadly.
The Canadian study due out next month is already being criticized by doctors who doubt its validity, and it's bound to cause concern and questions by women. The American Cancer Society has a free phone number that you can call with questions about mammography. It's 1-800-ACS-2345. In Seattle, Linda Brill, King 5 News.
California, it's still feeling the effects of last week's rains.
Just ahead on King 5 News, we'll show you some of the damage down there.
And we're going to talk about our weather, too.
Well, you know that sunshine we've been trying to find? It's getting a little easier. We'll take a look at your Monday forecast after this. Still seeing quite a bit of cloud cover and a few light showers throughout the Puget Sound area. 44 degrees now here in Seattle under mostly cloudy skies. 45 degrees, mostly cloudy skies in Tacoma. Everett reporting a few light rain showers. Winds from the southeast at 9 miles an hour and a current temperature of 45. Most of this system has now moved to the east of us into parts of eastern Washington and northern Idaho. We'll continue to see scattered showers, though, over the next 24 hours or so. Monday travel weather. If you are headed down south, partly cloudy skies tomorrow in Portland and a high of 59. Sunshine and very warm temperatures in California. San Francisco 70 degrees, 85 expected in Los Angeles. Back east, thunder showers from New York all the way into the Gulf coastal states. Dallas, New Orleans, and Orlando all expecting thunder showers. Chicago, rain tomorrow, and snow is expected in Minneapolis. Well, remember about a week ago or so we showed you a house in San Francisco that because of the heavy rain and mudslides was starting to fall off this cliff. Well, it did so today. What we have seen, first the balcony of this person's home fell in, and it continues to do so. Of course, they have evacuated the entire area, and we are continuing to watch this situation. Unfortunately, not good news. More rain is in store for them toward the end of this week. Ridge of high pressure building right now off the California coast. We were hoping it could give us sunshine for maybe 4 or 5 days. Looks like now we'll see sunshine for about 2 days. You'll notice a lot of subtropical moisture going right over the top of this ridge, feeding into parts of Oregon and Washington. And that's the reason we've had the showers today and tonight. We'll stick with rain tomorrow and then partial clearing late tomorrow afternoon and evening with sunshine moving in by Tuesday. In the meantime, the next 24 hours we're looking at very unstable conditions. Overnight lows will be in the low 40s tonight with cloudy, showery skies. Showers in the morning, and then we'll gradually see a drying trend tomorrow afternoon. Daytime highs in the low and mid 50s. Along the coast, you too will see some afternoon sun breaks. East side of the state expecting mostly cloudy skies with scattered showers, and then those showers decreasing late tomorrow afternoon. Over the mountains, the snow level tonight from 3,500 to 4,500 feet. They're already seeing a mixture of rain and snow. The snow level not as high as we originally had planned, which is very good news. We'll stick with scattered showers, partial clearing late tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures running in the upper 30s and the snow level at about 5,000 feet. The extended forecast, 2 days or so of sunshine, not too bad. We'll see partly sunny skies on Tuesday, mostly sunny skies on Wednesday. Look at those temperatures in the low 60s. Thursday, late afternoon and evening, the clouds roll back in and the rain moves back in by Friday. So all in all, not too bad a week at all.
60 degrees, that's springtime.
I told you I could improve it from 5 o'clock. Very good job. No problem.
King 5 Sports is up next. Carlos Del Valle will explain why today's Husky game against Oregon State could have been called Leave It to Beaver.
And Wake Forest gave #1 Duke a wake-up call today. A huge college upset. Just ahead in sports.
The Husky basketball team has had a couple of tough weeks here.
They were trying to break that streak, but
they teased us again today. Can you believe that? Oh, what the heck. The Washington Huskies broke a 6-game Pac-10 losing streak with a win over Oregon Thursday, but the streak is back today. Oregon State came to town, and it was another classic Husky case of too little, too late. The Beavers behind the big guy, Scott Haskins, beat the Huskies in Heckhead 77-67. Now, Oregon State had a 3-point lead at halftime, but with 15 minutes left, James French hit the three-pointer, and the Huskies had a 43-42 lead. But Oregon State's big guy took over. Watch Haskins. He'll come up with a jumper right here. He scored the next 6 of 9 points for the Beavers. Haskins received some nice inside passing, too. How about this? Then the slam. Well, he slammed the door on the Huskies in the second half with the Pac-10 commissioner looking on, Tom Hansen. Haskins decided to put on a little bit of a show as the Beavers baffled and bounced the Huskies by 10. Oregon State 77, Huskies 67. Number 2, UCLA went down to Notre Dame yesterday. Welcome to upset weekend because today, #1 Duke visited Wake Forest. Top-ranked Duke may no longer be top-ranked after today. Check it out. The Demon Deacons behind the shooting of Anthony Tucker, who nails the jumper there, blew past the Blue Devils in Winston-Salem. Needless to say, Demon Deacon fans went wild after the upset win. Wake Forest beats #1 Duke 72-68.
So many of the very, very fine teams in this country went down this week. And it seems like college basketball has one of those weeks each year. Maybe it was in the cards. I don't know.
Got to play the hand you're dealt, right? Wake Forest over Duke, Arizona by 6 over Temple, Indiana by 6 over Ohio State, and Missouri beat Oklahoma State in a Big 8 battle of Big 10 teams. 2 teams from the state of Texas tussled in the Summit tonight. The Spurs sashayed into Houston to try and rattle the Rockets. Former Houston Rocket Rudy Tomjanovich is 2 for 3 as the new head coach of the Rockets, replacing the former Coach of the Year, Don Chaney. A big night for Hakeem. Watch this. Ball inside Otisthorpe. Here comes Hakeem. Boom! That's right, folks. The big-time rebound power slam. Hakeem with 14 rebounds, 18 points as Houston beat San Antonio 90-83. Other scores in the NBA. Indiana, Sacramento won a game. How about that? They beat Washington. Cleveland over Milwaukee, and there's Houston's win over San Antonio. The Winter Olympics came to a close today over in Albertville, France. The United States finished with 11 medals. Who got the gold medal in hockey? The unified team. They beat Canada 3-1. Who got the most medals? Well, let's check that out. Germany did. They had 26. Unified team with 23. Remember, the unified team was the former Soviet Union team. The United States with a grand total of 11, 5 gold medals. And finally tonight, Lavana Las Vegas coach Jerry Tarkanian. He's had his fair share of trouble with the NCAA. Here we go again. Tarkanian's running Rebs, well, they faced 29 new NCAA infraction allegations. Woo. He was supposed to resign from UNLV in 10 days. Today he changed his mind.
However, I am rescinding my resignation. Lowest thing that's ever happened to me or to Rebel basketball or to any sport is the accusation of the point shaving, and that was totally false, and I want that brought out in the open.
Well, don't. This thing isn't over with yet. The UNLV college president said, Jerry, you're gone in 10 days, whether you like it or not. So we'll find out more about this tomorrow. And by the way, the Tacoma, the Seattle Thunderbirds lost to Lethbridge tonight 7-1.
What would sports writers do without Jerry Tarkanian?
What would the NCAA do without Jerry Tarkanian? That's right. Well, they may not have to throw him around anymore after 10 days. We'll find out.
All right, Carlos, thanks.
You got it.
That's King 5 News at 11. Join Joyce Taylor and Dennis Bounds for King 5 Morning News tomorrow from 5 to 7.
We'll see you again next weekend. Have a great week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
For the latest overnight news, live traffic reports, and up-to-the-minute weather, join Joyce Taylor and Dennis Bounds for King 5 Morning News, weekday mornings beginning at 5.